Students of the Bible are very familiar with the statement that Jesus made in John chapter 8, verse 32, "You shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free." However, there are a lot of individuals that do not recognize that's really just half of the sentence. That's not the complete thought. If you go back and look at the older King James translation, verse 31 and 32 is separated by a semicolon, not a period. They recognize it was a continuous thought. The same thing is true with the American Standard Version. Also, with the New Revised Standard Version, there are other translations that recognize this is really one sentence, verse 31 and verse 32. Even in translations that have tried to separate those and put a period and seem to make them two different sentences, John chapter 8, verse 31 and 32, you can hear the difference in the continuance of the thought just in the way that it's worded. For example, in the NIV translation, it reads this way in verse 32. "Then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free." Okay, I want to know what the "then" refers to. That's really not a complete thought. Even in the New King James, that separates these two verses by a period, the statement's made in verse 32, "And you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free." I want to know what comes before the "and." When people make that statement, "You shall know the truth shall make you free," that's only one half of what Jesus says on that particular topic. So by the time we have together today, I'd like to talk about John chapter 8 and when does the truth actually make you free? And what's involved in that process? And is Jesus describing things that really kind of build upon that principle as he continues his discussion with people around him? The answer is yes. So we start thinking and talking about these verses under the title or the theme of when does truth make you free or set you free? Let's start in verse number 30. In verse number 30, as Jesus spoke these words, many believed in him. Then Jesus said to those Jews who believed in him, verse 31, "If you abide in my word, you're my disciples indeed, and you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free." There is a faithfulness involved in this concept. If you abide in my word, not only are you truly my disciples, but you will know the truth, and the truth will make you free. It's a statement that suggests the principles cannot be observed and then discarded. You can't have somebody say, "Well, I'm actually following the truth," if they're actually using a fact here or a fact there to their advantage and forgetting the way that fits into the greater scheme of what is factual and what is true. The faithfulness to abide in God's Word. Now that means I've got to know what that Word involves. I've got to be a student of that Word and understand that the truth that sets me free is connected with the way that I learn and apply those principles that I find in God's Word. It's not rocket science. It's faithfulness. And it should be something that's easily understood. But that brings up another point. We've talked about time and time again, context, context, context. I can't take one verse out of the paragraph in which I find it and make a statement about that really ignores other facts that are very much a part of that principle. Abiding in the words of Jesus is an integral part of being made free by the truth of God's Word. And then there's an interesting statement in verse number 33. They answered Jesus, "We are Abraham's descendants and have never been in bondage to anyone. How can you say you'll be made free? We are Abraham's descendants and have never been in bondage to anyone." Who are these people? And where have they been when the religious leaders have been reading to them from the Old Testament about the events of their forefathers? We have never been in bondage to anyone. What about the nation of Israel under bondage in Egypt for hundreds of years? More than that, in the book of Judges, there's a summary statement in Judges chapter 10, and you can actually add to this later on in Judges. But in Judges chapter 10, verse number 11, God is upset with the people that have disregarded his law. This is the statement. The Lord said to the children of Israel, "Did I not deliver you from the Egyptians and from the Amorites and from the people of Ammon and from the Philistines? Also the Sidonians, the Amalekites, the Midianites oppressed you, and you cried out to me, and I delivered you from their hand." So when these people make the statement to Jesus, we're the descendants of Abraham and have never been in bondage to anyone, where have they been? Obviously, history is not their forte. But it doesn't even have to be that. If you look around just in the cities in which they live, Roman soldiers are garrisoned up and down this land that they possess. They've never been in bondage to anyone. Why do they make such a statement? Well, they don't like the idea, perhaps, in some regards, that you mean I really need to faithfully follow what you're saying? That what you're saying really involves those principles that have always been ingrained in God's Word as the truth that God has for humanity? I need to follow that. We've never been in bondage to anyone here. Yes, you have. You still are. So beginning in verse 33, going down through verse 38, in this kind of context, there's something that Jesus states in verse 36. If the Son makes you free, you shall be free indeed. He says in verse 37 and 38, I know that you are Abraham's descendants, but you seek to kill me, because my word has no place in you. I speak what I've seen with my father, and you do what you have seen with your father. Which leads into another topic. But what has Jesus discussed so far about truth? Well, there's a faithfulness that's got to be present in my life and following that truth if it's going to make any difference or have any bearing on my life. If you abide in my words, then you're my disciples indeed. And then the second place, if the Son makes you free, well, how does Jesus do that? Not just through the instructions that he provides during that brief earthly ministry, but ultimately that sacrifice on the cross. If the Son of Man, if the Son of God makes us free, that is what makes us free indeed. And you can see the if in the conditional aspect of all of these statements. If you abide in my word, faithfulness. If the Son makes you free, sacrifice. The sacrifice of Jesus keeps pointing us back to the truth of those principles that he enumerated while he was upon this earth. And principles that have been expounded, that he actually brought clear vision to, that the people really had forgotten. Jesus elevates that covenant of the old into a new covenant, a new message, good news, the gospel. The Old Testament talked about action. Don't do this, don't do that. Jesus said, don't even think about it. Keep the actions in check by keeping the attitude correct. If the attitude is correct, correct actions will follow. If the Son makes you free, you shall be free indeed. Sacrifice. They respond by saying, verse 39, Abraham is our father. Jesus says, if you were Abraham's children, you would do the works of Abraham. But now you seek to kill me, a man who has told you the truth, which I heard from God. Abraham didn't do this. You do the deeds of your father. If you were Abraham's children, you would do the works of Abraham. If then, look at the way that Abraham endeavored to serve God. If you were Abraham's children, wouldn't you not be serving God as well? What's involved in the truth making us free? Abiding in it, that faithfulness. Seeing within that sacrifice of Jesus something that we will never, ever rise to as far as sacrifice in our life. It's an appreciation for what he did that we could not accomplish. And then the service that we give, the works of Abraham, the faithfulness of Abraham in executing what God would have him to do. It's an active process. The service of the disciple, the service of the believer. Again, how's the truth set one free? All three of these. But Jesus isn't finished. In verse 42, Jesus says, if God were your father, you would love me, for I proceed forth and come from God, nor have I come of myself, but he sent me. Why do you not understand my speech? Because you're not able to listen to my word. You don't want to make a change. There's something significant that's really involved in the heritage that one possesses as a child of God that should never be taken lightly. And as a child of God, that doesn't give me license to live the way that I desire to live. Remember, if I'm going to have that truth of God make me free, I need to abide faithfully in his word. Recognize the sacrifice of Jesus and be wanting to make my own sacrifices to abide in that word. Serve those around me and serve God faithfully. And that truth that sets us free is really something that should be understood by those who have that heritage from God himself. If God were your father, Jesus says, you'd love me. In John chapter 14, Jesus said, if you love me, keep my commandments. Again, it falls back to that faithfulness, that abiding aspect of I want the truth of God to be very much a part of my life as much as it is possible to make it a part of my life. And here in this particular point in verse number 42, if God were your Father, the heritage that you have as a child of God. Down in verse 46, which of you, Jesus asked, convicts me of sin? And if I tell the truth, why do you not believe me? He who is of God hears God's word, therefore you do not hear because you are not of God. What's the problem? The problem is responsibility of actually analyzing and understanding and applying that message. What he says in verse 46 is, if I tell you the truth, why don't you believe me? So you've got individuals that actually are believing in Jesus, and the statement he makes to them, if you abide in my word, you're my disciples, and the truth will make you free. And then there are other individuals in that crowd that are saying, but no, that can't be right. We've never been in bondage to anybody. Oh, yes, you have. You still are. Look at the Roman soldiers up and down your streets. And you start seeing the way that all of these kind of play out and roll back into that concept of following the truth of God's word. The relationship we have with God himself as a child of God. The way that we serve, the way that we remember sacrifice, the way that we are faithful. In verse 51, Jesus said, most assuredly I say to you, if anyone keeps my word, he shall never see death. The assurance of being faithful until the very end. In fact, there's an interesting statement that you find within the letters that Jesus dictates to John while John is on the island of Patmos, writing down the words that are in the book of Revelation. And in those letters to those 7 congregations, Jesus makes the statement to those that are in the city of Smyrna, verse number 8. These things write to the angel of the church in Smyrna. What he says among everything else, in verse number 10, be faithful until death, and I'll give you the crown of life. When does the truth make us free? When we continue to follow it. If we stop following it, we start enslaving ourselves to something else. All these things are involved. The assurance of what Jesus promises, the statement that's made in verse 51, if anyone keeps my word, he will never see death, based upon that abiding nature of following that truth. All of those items are involved. Can't pick and choose. Can't take that verse out of context. I can't use verse 32 of John chapter 8 to talk about, well, the truth's going to make you free, if I don't understand that abiding in the truth is an integral part of that. And we see a world around us that uses fact or facts only when it suits them and discards them most of the rest of the time. That's not something that's going to make anybody free. It enslaves us to other things. Interesting chapter. Interesting topic. Interesting items that Jesus enumerates that filter back into the significance of that truth in your life and in mine. May we always be individuals that seek with every fiber of our being to abide in God's word. Please stay safe. We'll talk again soon.